Daniel took me under his wing. He was a couple years older than me, and he was like a big brother. And I invited him to a Bible study one time, and he turned and he looked at me and he goes, "Jake, if I touch a Bible, I will burn." And I couldn't like make that make sense in my head because this was one of the best humans I had ever met. But he wouldn't even touch this book that I thought was so important. And so my fortress walls kind of started to crack a little bit. And then I went back home to Phoenix where my parents had moved. I grew up in Chicago, but we moved to Phoenix right at the end of my senior year of high school. And so I already didn't have the church that I grew up in Phoenix. And I started asking questions. And because I had already read the Bible cover to cover 3 times, and I had read biblical commentaries, and I knew it better than most of the pastors, I knew the right questions to ask to get myself asked not to return to church and to Bible studies. And so I got myself kicked out of several churches and Bible studies when really I just wanted somebody to help me answer my questions and make me confident again. So the loneliness kind of started before I really even fully lost my faith. And then came the moment where I was sitting on my bed and I said out the words, "I don't believe in you, God." The irony hit me almost immediately, though. You can't address someone you don't believe in, right? And so I was like, wait, no, I don't believe in God. And I remember still the panic. I thought the lightning was going to come right through the window, um, and nothing happened. My fear kind of curdled into sorrow, and I felt the gates of my old safe community fortress kind of slam shut behind me. I knew I'd, I had finalized it on my own, right? They weren't going to let me back in. And I didn't want to be there, but I was adrift. I was like really profoundly kind of existentially lonely for a long time. The solution for me wasn't finding the philosophical label humanism, though. Unfortunately, once I identified as humanist, that didn't immediately solve my loneliness problem. That solution kind of came to me from an elder woman named Chris Case, who was my boss at the North Kitsap School District in Paulsboro, Washington. Chris was in her 60s. Her husband was in her 60s. She was the public relations director for the school district I worked at, and she was a lighthouse for me. She wasn't a fortress promising to protect me from the world, but she was this kind of blazing light showing me ways to navigate it. She was one of the first elder secular people that I ever had in my life as a guiding star of what it means to be good and what it means to show up in the world and what it means to take care of people around you, even though they're not part of your family or part of your belief system. She never offered me dogma. She just offered her wisdom, her time, her kindness, way beyond the confines of the managerial relationship that we had. I spent Sundays at her house with her family for meals because I was alone in Seattle. And Chris and her husband really invited me in. Um, and I realized that the community I was mourning wasn't exclusive to church. It was in the work of showing up for people. It wasn't in the creed, it was in the caring. So that brings me to us, to the AHA. So if what got us here won't get us there, how are we building our own humanist lighthouses for the future? How are we looking outside of ourselves to make those connections and find the lonely people around us and give them a community, a family, like Chris and Wynn did for me? We know loneliness is at an all-time high, and we need it more than we need the humanist label, really. We need connection. So some of the ways that we're building that from the national level and working to invest in cultivating connections on a national scale is awareness, first off. So we think there might be 44 million humanists in America. We think that people just don't know they're humanist because humanism has had a branding problem. Um, if we were ever hanging out at a bar and you wanted to get me started talking about new atheism and the detrimental effect that I think it had on humanism, that's a whole that's a whole evening conversation we can have. I think new atheism did a lot to kind of promote atheism as a more normal thing in America, but I think that humanism tying itself into it was detrimental to the humanist cause a little bit. And I think that we have a lot of work to do to both make humanism not an anti-theist thing. Humanism is what we're for, not what we're against. And I think the more that we can position and market that, the more people who never grew up religious won't immediately kind of have a weird sense about things. When you lead with what you're against, it's not a very welcoming or inviting space. And so humanism is what we're for. And I think as we continue to massage that message and like I said, kind of untangle ourselves from the new atheist movement. We're going to continue to reach those 44 million people and let them know that they're not alone, that there is a belief system for them. There is a value system that aligns with who they already are. They just didn't have a label for it. So how are we doing that? We're doing it a couple of ways. One, at our conference, we launched what's called the Humanist Creator Fund. And this is an idea I had a couple of months ago. I'm really excited about it. We're a couple months into it now. We had a very generous anonymous donor who donated $120,000 to help the project get started, which is absolutely incredible. But what we're doing is there are a ton of atheist and humanist YouTubers, Instagrammers, TikTokers, and people under the age of 35 who are making videos that are pro humanist values. Usually they're focused on atheism because a lot of them didn't even know they were humanist, or they had a misunderstanding of what humanism is. And so we're connecting with those people and we're sponsoring their videos. A lot of secular creators are only getting asked for sponsorships from like sex toy companies or kind of deviant things. They have no desire to do this because they're good people. I mean, not that there's anything wrong with sex toys, if that's what you're into, but I think you know what I'm saying. They'd much rather be sponsored by a nonprofit. So one of those creators, his name's Drew. His video is called Genetically Modified Skeptic, is his channel on YouTube. He has 850,000 subscribers. His videos get upwards of 3 million views within a couple of days of being out. We've put out a couple of videos with Drew already. And then Drew is saying, hey, the American Humanist Association has been on the right side of history for over 100 years. And that's why I'm proud to be sponsored by the American Humanist Association, why I'm proud to call myself a humanist, and why you should consider being a humanist too. And so really simple messaging, kind of talking about what we're doing. Those people are finding our website. They're becoming national members. They're joining our Discord, which is an online chat community. And then we're trying to encourage them to actually go out and do humanism. So I think humanism is really only humanism when it's in action, when we're showing up for people. It's much more than just a philosophical label. So now we're getting people to realize that they're a humanist, get connected to the national movement, and then encouraging them to go into their communities and show up. And so that's kind of the Humanist Creator Fund in a nutshell. We're really excited about that. We're working with half a dozen creators right now. So we got Drew, Genetically Modified Skeptic. We got his wife. Her channel is called The Antibot. She identifies as a non-deistic Satanist, which, if you're familiar with Satanism, the same tenets of, they're just like, younger, grittier humanists a little bit. They just like to go by Satanists, I guess. Not that they believe in Satan. We've got Durante Lamar, who is a ex-pastor. He's amazing. We've got Alyssa Grenfell, who's an ex-Mormon. She has 1.3 million followers on YouTube, and she puts out a lot of ex-Mormon content. We just signed with a TikToker named Jesus Unfollower. He has a couple million followers on TikTok. And so there's a whole slew of younger people who we believe identify or will identify as humanists that we're connecting through there. And so we're really excited to not only find them, connect them, but then activate them. We're going to do that with a 6-figure grant program that we're rolling out next spring. So this year, kind of fortunately / unfortunately, we've had a couple of bequests left to us, much more than we had budgeted for. And our board has agreed to use some of that money to put it into direct action. And so in the spring, we're going to be rolling out kind of a 6-figure grant program that's focused on empathy, because the wacky people at the top right now think empathy is a sin, and we know better. We know that empathy is what connects us. So keep your eye out for that. Think up some crazy ideas for next spring. Send in your grants, and I'd love to send you some money there in Toledo to do some kind of empathy projects. But again, that program is hopefully going to start activating those new younger folks that are finding humanism and give them a way to put their service into action. We're calling that Empathy Makes Us Great, is the name of that program. So that'll come out next spring. We're also doing a national rebrand. So one of our board members owns a marketing company, and he donated $250,000 of pro bono work. And so over the past year-ish, they've been doing a marketing and messaging research campaign across the country. They've been introducing people to the idea of humanism, asking them what parts of it resonate with them, what would make them identify as a humanist. They're asking people who grew up religious like I did. They're asking people who grew up completely secular and have never heard of it. They're asking people who have never thought about it before, and kind of tailoring in, sort of zeroing down on what maybe the best marketing and messaging and branding is. So one of the things, I've been working in nonprofit my whole life. Something that nonprofits just tend to not do well is marketing. We don't spend a lot of time thinking about marketing. We don't spend a lot of time perfecting marketing, but marketing is really important. So I'm really excited to see this kind of report come back. From there, we're going to use some of that bequest money to also do a national rebrand and a new website. So our website's almost 20 years old right now, which if you know anything about the internet, websites should not be 20 years old. It got a refresh about 9 years ago, but it's still a very dated website with a whole lot of old stuff on it. It's not easy to navigate. It doesn't immediately tell you what humanism is or give you ways to get connected or actioned. So we've got an RFP out right now. We're looking for proposals from marketing companies and rebranding companies, and we're starting to get those back. But come next spring, we'll kind of have a new look. I don't know what that's going to look like completely yet. Humanist UK, I think, is a kind of a gold star of how it could be done. Humanist UK is still legally the British Humanist Association, but if you go look at their website, the Humanist UK website is a really great website. I think a really good representation of humanism and what it can be. So we're kind of holding that up as a gold star. We're launching a new podcast. We're launching, Fish has this idea that we need kind of to keep combating the manosphere, the pipeline that's kind of converting younger males into alt-right. So people like Jordan Peterson on the right, that we really need something on the left that kind of is focused on kindness as a leading model. Humanist UK again has a really cool podcast that they're doing over there as well, called What I Believe. That's done by their executive director Andrew Copson, and so we might take some kind of model like that and kind of put it into play over here. For you, those of you who don't know, Humanist UK actually has more than twice the amount of staff that we do, even though it's a tiny little island over there. So we got a lot of catching up to, but they've done a lot of great programming that I'm excited to kind of copy. Okay, what else are we talking about here? We are talking about, I'm very excited. My entire week has been spent hiring, reading applications for a new coordinator for my team. So again, my department never existed before. I've been solo in this role for the last 6 months. We've built a lot of new resources, like a Humanist Organizer Resource Center. We built a weekly digest that goes out to our group leaders across the country with resources and grant ideas and programming ideas and connecting people. We started a monthly organizer call where people get together and kind of do peer support. We rolled out a new software that groups can use to kind of help manage their email lists and their events. We've been doing just a ton of work, but I've been doing it all by myself. So I'm very excited to hire a new coordinator. We posted these roles last Friday. We posted 2 roles, a community organizing coordinator role and a communications coordinator role. We've had over 1,000 applications in a week. I personally read 457 applications this week for my role, and the communication one had 600. And the amount of people, one of the questions, the final question that I always put on every job application I've ever posted is, what is a question that we should have asked but didn't, that you would like us to know? And the amount of people who said, I didn't know I was a humanist before this job description was many, like probably over a third of the people. But these are passionate, amazing, young people who are already doing advocacy work, who are already doing progressive action, who are already showing up for their communities in a humanist way, and they just didn't know they were humanists. So that goes back to kind of the need for us to really invest in marketing and the other work that we're doing. If we can find hundreds of people from a single job posting, how else can we find our humanists and let them know, hey, you're not alone. There's this thing for you, and communities that are ready to accept you. Um, okay. The other thing that we're going to be doing is more local initiatives. So going into next year, I want to help local groups do a lot more kind of local sponsorship stuff, local marketing stuff. So if you're running an event or you're running a service project, I'd love to help build a marketing campaign in your area to drive awareness for it. And I want to do that kind of across the country. And really, again, this goes back to more marketing stuff. People aren't going to show up if they don't know about us. And so to get them to know about us, we got to show up where they are. So I'm really excited about that. We're also building new leadership training cohorts. Like I said, we've got a wealth of knowledge across our communities, but people haven't been talking to each other a whole lot. So how do we bring group leaders together to kind of organize together, learn from each other, and challenge each other to try new things? So that program is going to be rolling out later this month, or not this month, later this year. And then we're also doing, this is a whole big list, y'all. Where am I at on it? I am at, oh, one of the programs that I'm really excited about, this is another program that we're going to steal from Humanist UK. Humanist UK has what's called a patron program. Is anybody familiar with their patron program? See some heads nodding? No? Okay. Does anybody know who Stephen Fry is?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay, so Stephen Fry is probably the most well-known Humanist UK patron. He actually does a lot of voiceovers for their videos, which he has a very recognizable voice. So that's really great for them. But they make commercials and run commercials with Stephen Fry's voice. You can watch their videos on YouTube or on their website. But they have a whole list of famous people and professors and scientists who identify as humanists on their website, and they're connected to all of these people, and they use what's called borrowed trust. Basically, it's why everybody knows what Scientology is, right? We all know what Scientology is because Scientology uses Tom Cruise as kind of borrowed trust. Humanist UK does this with their patron program. They activate those people to talk about humanism and to let people know. And so their list of humanists are really long. There's a lot of comedians on there. There's people like Sir Patrick Stewart from TNG, from Star Trek. I mean, everybody knows Sir Patrick Stewart, right? Stephen Fry, and a lot of other celebrities and scientists and professors. So we're going to call it the Ambassador Program, the Humanist Ambassador Program, and we're going to do the same thing over here. We're going to start with our list of Humanist of the Year awardees. We already have a huge list of people that we've been connected to every single year, people from Bill Nye to Kurt Vonnegut, and a lot of people in between. So we already have a great list of folks that we can start with, and then we'll continue to reach out to new people that we think are probably humanists but don't know they're humanists, and get them to kind of agree that they are humanists and want to support our mission. So I'm really excited about that as well. Again, this all goes back to awareness, right? Like our rooms aren't ever going to grow until people know that this is what they are. And so how are we, how are we doing the work to find people? And then on top of all of that, I'm also joining the Interfaith America Fellowship. So we're doing a lot more interfaith work as well. As y'all know, we're under attack. We're not the only ones under attack. And so the more that we can lean in with our allies who, the more work we can do together, the more that we will stand stronger as a country that believes in freedom of religion, and freedom from religion as well. But so I start that fellowship in 2 weeks. That'll be a year-long fellowship with Interfaith America that I'm really excited about. And we do a lot more kind of interfaith work, and we're looking at how we can do more in terms of legal and policy work as well. Again, raising awareness of humanism, but also showing up as humanists in the spaces where we belong. So how do we in this room build our own local lighthouses outside of the stuff that the national effort's doing? Based on my journey and conversations with groups nationwide, I've kind of boiled it down to 3 pillars of what a thriving humanist community can look like. Pillar 1 is to kind of look outward and become community cartographers. So pull up Google and start asking yourself, who has our humanists already? Where are humanists already showing up in Toledo that just don't know they're humanists? And then show up there with them, right? There are already people like all of these people who applied for my jobs, uh, they are humanists. They just didn't know it. They're already showing up and doing the work. They're showing up at the protests. They're at the No Kings rally. They're showing up at the homeless shelters. They're showing up at the food banks. They're doing the work. They're already out there. So pull up your map and put together a whole list of literally mapping out your area, asking yourself who has our humanists? Where are they? And find those people, and then go to them. Don't ask them to show up for you. Show up for them and get your hands dirty working alongside them. Pillar two is to look inward and become lighthouses for each other. So I'm asking you to be that Chris Case for your group. Mentorship's about sharing your light, your skills, and your time. What are you good at that other people in your community need or could use that you can share? I know for me, when I deconverted, I lost all of my friends and family, and finding older folks who wanted to be my mentor, who wanted to kind of be a surrogate family for me was really, really important. Um, but we all have special skills. I think back on a guy from church who had a stained glass workshop in his garage, and he would let me come over and work on stained glass. You know, maybe you've got a hobby that you really like, that you haven't shared with other people, but maybe it's something that other people are into. So think about how you can kind of become those lighthouses for each other, and continue to build community outside of this meeting, right? And outside of this room. Have potlucks at your house, invite people over for dinner, create our own kind of secular rituals to create a sense of belonging, I think is really important. Um, yeah. So either offer to teach a skill or have courage to ask to learn one from somebody else in your group, and create this kind of culture where asking others for help is as celebrated as offering it. It's okay to ask for ideas or a skill that you might not be great at. Pillar three is to look together and kind of create rituals of connection. So my old community was built on rituals, those potlucks, those projects, those weekly meetings. And the word ritual in our community can kind of be a love-hate word for people. Some people are like, they cringe when they hear the word ritual, but humanity is built on rituals. It's how, like, it's just part of who we are as humans. And so to think that we don't need them in our communities, I think is kind of silly. So think about what are your rituals that you already have and how can you infuse some more into them, some more intentional shared activities into your lives. So beyond the meetings, are you going on museum trips together or game nights or community care crew where you're getting out and doing the work, and play together. So one of my favorite things is that when we play together, when we use imaginative play, which is something that, you know, they tell us we should forget when we become adults, that, you know, be serious. But when we play together, the same part of our brain that's associated with empathy lights up. So play literally builds connection just by having fun together. And so look for opportunities to be silly together and to infuse some play. Okay, so community is forged in the work we do together, side by side. When I left my faith, I grieved the loss of that effortless community. But the beauty of humanism is that it frees us from that fortress. It allows us to build something better, not a home of stone walls to keep ideas out, but a network of 1,000 interconnected lighthouses across the country, showing us the way to a better and kinder tomorrow. And I'm really excited to be doing this work up at the national level. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, you gave us quite a few good ideas, and I know quite a bit of that we do here with the rituals and the play. We just had a bowling event
I
last
love
Sunday. We were all part of the gutter club, pretty much.
it.
But yeah, it was fun. It was fun.
You got to get those bumper lanes like they got for the kids.
Yeah, we should have thought about that ahead of time. I don't know if that was extra,
Yeah.
but that would have helped a lot.
Funny. I went bowling. I went bowling the other day. I mean, side story. I went bowling for the first time in like 10 years, 15 years maybe. And I was way better than I expected to be after having not done it for so long. And I forgot how much I liked it. It's such a Midwest thing. And then I lived out west for a long time.
We had fun even though we were all gutter.
Yeah. Yeah. It's great. I love it.
Laughed and joked around. I think we'll do it again. Well, we will.
All right. Well, if anybody has any questions or anything, raise your hand and we'll do that. Go ahead.
have a question. Jake, my name is Chuja, and I just want to thank you so much for coming on board to the AHA. Truly, I am so excited to hear what has come out of your mouth, because those are things. A lot of those are ideas that I've had for this group as well. I'm new to humanism. I've been a practicing Buddhist for decades and decades, and the principles are very shared. It's
Yep.
the same thing. So I don't really have a sangha that I practice with, and I don't really, agree with the religion of Buddhism, which is Buddhism, but Dharma itself, Dharma practice, I'm all about.
Mhm.
So humanism is something I dedicate my life to, because there's nothing more important, truly, especially the 10 Commitments. Love that. My question is, with everything that we want to do to hit the ground running, is there something that you could do other than, I mean, I know that you're going to be opening up your grant program, which I'm hoping if we, I might be elected as a board member, and maybe we'll be able to apply for a grant. I'm hoping, because I know we could use the money for something. My question is, and I also am a support group leader for an organization called Recovering from Religion. I'm sure you're familiar with them. So one of the things I really liked about that organization is they foot the bill for all the meetup costs, all the Zoom costs, and all of that, so that the individual leaders don't have to share any kind of cost for that. And I know those kind of costs can be covered from a grant, but I just want to know if maybe we could have AHA put their money where their mouth is and say, okay, we're just going to let each chapter, we're going to have this tool available for each chapter. We're going to put the bill for each chapter at a national level to use these products, so we can further get the word out. I know through the work that I do with Recovering from Religion, we do quite frequently get many people that say they heard about this through Meetup. And it may not be a lot, but it's something, it's there. And I mean, we need to reach out with as many venues as we can to try to get the word out. I mean, this is a all hands on deck, throw the kitchen sink at a moment. So, is there something that National can do to just grant us, just kind of bequeath us all this money, or own this on a more corporate level, and let the lower levels use the product?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we did launch a event tool called Action Network, which is, if you go to actionnetwork.org, it's, we're paying for it at the national level, and we have a couple dozen groups using it now. It lets you build an event. It is also an email database. It's what I send my weekly emails out from as well. We're paying for it at National because a lot of our groups were paying for things like MailChimp or Constant Contact or other email tools. The other thing that it does is Meetup, you don't get to control your data. And so Meetup is kind of yeah, I don't trust Meetup. Like I know it's great for group building, but I don't want my data to live there, and I don't want our group data to be only in Meetup. And so what groups have been doing is they build an event in Action Network, and then they take that event link and they share it in Meetup, they share it in Facebook, they share it on Instagram, they share it on TikTok, they share it other places. But it's an RSVP link. So when people RSVP, their information goes into Action Network, where we can actually kind of see it. The other thing Action Network lets us do that we can't do in Meetup is if you put your address in, we can see what congressional district you're in, we can see what state district you're in, and then we can use that for advocacy work as well. And so Action Network is a non-for-profit itself. It's also a union shop, and they only work with progressive organizations. So we did a lot of shopping. It was one of the first things I did because, to your point, every one of our groups is spending money on the same things across the country. And as I was talking to all these different groups, I realized that we're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars as a movement on tools that aren't really even being used all that great. I spent the last 5 years in tech. Before that, I was in nonprofit my whole life, but I spent the last 5 years working in tech sales. And so I'm really familiar with the kind of scene of what's called CRMs, customer relationship management software. And so I vetted about 30 of them from that work with nonprofits. And we went with Action Network because their values align with our values and the product works pretty well for what we need. So that is already free to groups. We're paying for that. Some groups are switching over. I've been thinking about Meetup and covering Meetup costs from a national level. It's really expensive. Um, I I have issues. I'm frustrated by Meetup. And it's hard for me to want to pay for Meetup. I think that we can do marketing in different ways. I think Meetup is a really easy tool to get started, but we have a lot of groups that are like, oh, we've got 4,000 people in our Meetup, but only 12 are showing up to an event. Like Meetup, just it. I don't. It's I don't know if it's our best.
Yeah, I want to add on to that. In our early days, we used Meetup, and it was $20 a month. And we did get like when we used to do the humanist nooners, the luncheon thing, got a lot of people from Meetup that went to those luncheons. And then COVID hit, and it's like everything was closed. It's like, why spend the money? So we dropped it. Now a private equity firm owns Meetup, and they jacked up the price to hundreds of dollars a month.
Yep.
There's just no way our group is going to pay for it, and it's not. And I want to attract kind of younger people, and younger people don't really use Meetup.
Yeah, I think
As
there's
much.
better ways we can use our money, basically, is what I'm saying. So
Yeah.
I've rolled out Action Network as kind of an event building tool, and then you get that link and you can share that link anywhere, right? So I would rather, instead of spending thousands of dollars a month on Meetup, which is what it would cost me at the national level to do that for every group, I would rather spend that money running a targeted Instagram ad in your area, right? Or like I would rather spend it on intentional marketing, not like Meetup's almost like having a flyer in a on Main Street or something, right? But like not everybody goes there, and the people that do don't tend to show up. They're not serious about RSVPing a lot. Um, a lot of our groups have been using Meetup for a lot of years though, and they get kind of almost upset with me when I kind of talk smack about Meetup.
Yeah.
But I think that there's better ways for us to use our money and different things that we can try. But we do have that tool. The other things that I'm trying to nationalize or federate, I guess for lack of a better term, is website. And so a lot of our groups are spending a lot of money on websites. As part of our rebranding, I've asked for the RFP to include kind of a website, a website template for groups. So in my ideal world, we would have like toledo.humanist.org that people could go to, and they could see kind of all of the events happening in the Toledo area, whether it's with your group or other groups that start up. And so that's the ultimate goal, is like, how are we making this easier for people again to get started? There's a lot of well-established groups that already have their own websites. They're going to want to keep those. That's fine. But if you're 23 years old and you want to start an event, you shouldn't have to need to become a 501c3 and buy a website and get insurance and you shouldn't have to do all that stuff. You should be able to go to the humanist.org website, say, I want to run an event on Tuesday, and have all the resources and tools to do that, right? And so I think that that's the way we're going to grow with younger people, is by lowering the barriers to entry and giving them more immediate tools. So those are kind of some of the things that we're working on. The website, the CRM tool, the marketing, more intentional kind of marketing ideas. And then the other thing that I'm working on, I've been trying to shop for insurance. It's really hard to find insurance for every, I can't cover insurance for all 50 states. I really wanted to. I wanted to find a kind of a group insurance policy that we could do, but I've hit walls everywhere on that. So if you happen to work in insurance, let me know. And then the other thing that I was shopping for was, so we have Google Workspace. And so if a group is under our 501c3 umbrella, which I think Secular Humanists of Western Lake Erie.
Yeah, we are.
I can give you access to our Google Workspace, where you can have your own kind of Google Workspace. So that comes with Gmail and Google Docs and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we already do. We already have.
Yeah, and a lot of groups do. Google's kind of changed their policy, so new groups that are forming can't get it if they're under our umbrella. but I figured out how to kind of give people their own access for it. But again, totally on the same page with you. We don't need to be rebuilding the wheel in every city, and we don't need to be spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on the same tools and the same products that don't talk to each other either. That's another big problem is we have a ton of local members who are not connected to the national movement, and we have a lot of national members that aren't connected to local movement. And I really want to bridge that divide by getting more synchronized tools, software tools.
Derek, do you have?
Yeah, I have a question. So you were, Derek here, so we're talking about the RFP out for the website and all that. What kind of timeline do you have going on with that?
Yeah, I mean, if you talk to Fish, it's like last Tuesday. Yeah. So we, you know, we had this idea that it would be by the end of the year, but that's just not realistic. Also, design firms like to take a lot of holiday breaks. So the RFPs that we've been seeing come back is kind of like late March, May timeframe, which makes sense. They got to do their own research and design and that kind of stuff. I'm really excited about it. I don't know. Again, I don't know what's gonna happen, but like the Happy Humanist, we've been using that since 1964. We actually stole it from Humanist UK. Humanist UK has their own new version that's kind of a squiggly line because when they rebranded, they came up with this idea that like we only have one life, like one thread, right? And so all of their designs is kind of this like single line thread, which is just really clever. And so I hope we come up with something equally as clever.
Yeah, I would suggest on a rebrand, don't touch the word humanism. So
No,
I know in the past people have tried to bake up other ideas for different terminology, and
no.
I oppose that. I don't.
Yeah, no. I think that our name is silly. I think that American Humanist Association is archaic. Like the word association doesn't need to be there. Also, we're in America, so you know. So I think simplicity in branding helps things. Like we own humanist.org as a website, but it's not what we put on stuff. I don't understand. I mean, we're going to start putting it on stuff because we're going to start using it. But that's much easier for people to remember. If I'm at an event and I'm like, hey, shoot me an email, jake@humanist.org. That's way easier than jv@americanhumanist.org. It's too many letters. So simplicity and branding. But yeah, humanism isn't going anywhere. So some of the other superfluous words might. We'll see. So.
Anybody else?
No, this is a lot of great information.
It's been a busy year. I'm tired. I'm tired.
I bet you are. That's a long one.
Yeah. And like again, going back to branding, we launched a new. I don't know if I'm reversed on your thing.
No, it looks fine.
Yeah. Okay. So we launched a new merch store, and we've got a new communications person named Shay who's been putting out some really cool designs. So if you haven't checked out the AHA's store, give it a check out. I really like this shirt. I wear it more than my wife wants me to because it's the most comfortable shirt that I own. It's really soft. It's really soft. But again, like, how are we showing up? How are we, this shirt, I wear it all the time. It prompted I went to physical therapy the other day because I got a bulging disc, and the physical therapist was like, what's that on your shirt? And I got to have a conversation about people over dogma, and why I choose to be a good person not for eternal reward, but because it's the only life I got. So yeah, think about, I don't know, I guess the thing I would ask to leave you with is if hundreds of people found us through a single job posting, how else can we show up in Toledo? Like, where else can we talk about humanism? That and just ask yourself, where are my humanists at? Because they're there, they just don't know they are. So how can you make that difference there in Toledo?
Anybody else? All right. Thanks a lot, Jake. We really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone. It's been great. Let me know if you're in Milwaukee. I'll take you out for some cheese curds. And if you need anything at all, jake@humanist.org. Shoot me an email.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that. He lives in Milwaukee.
All right,
So he had to get up extra early to visit with us today.
and then wait.
And then wait and wait and wait.
No, this has been great. I'll do it anytime.
All right.
Appreciate everything y'all are doing out there. Let me know how I can help. I'm here for you.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.